Okay, so I'm here with Bevan who's the director of Steelo Guns and Outdoor, but he's also the president of the West Australian Firearms Traders Association. And we're just going to discuss a few issues. So it's come up recently that there's been quite a few issues with the police over the last few years in regard to some policy, regulation, legislation and that sort of stuff. And we're just going to cover a few of these issues over now. We're going to talk about what the issue is, whether it's been resolved or not, and what part WAFTA's taken in that, and what the plan is with it if it's unresolved moving forward. So thanks for coming, Bev.
Cool.
Steelo. So the first one that we want to talk about is the case of interstate licences. So obviously Western Australia, you can't come into Western Australia on an eastern state licence, but you can take, on a West Australian licence, you can go interstate and you can, your licence will be recognised for a certain period of time.
Yep.
And it's been a big sticking point with a lot of people, especially interstate shooters coming to WA to compete, to take part in a competition, and they have to go through the whole permit process and everything like that. And so that's the major issue there. Now, can you see that being resolved?
Look, not at the moment. There's been discussions around the Law Reform Commission review. So I'll refer to this a lot as the LRC, which was a draft document for Parliament, basically going back now 4 years, I think, ago. We started working on it. Yeah. 3 years ago it was presented, so we're 2 years on and not a lot's happened with it. But look, it's been discussed in various formats with licensing from other jurisdictions or other industry bodies as well, and it's pretty well, we're locked in a stalemate, I suppose. Legislation prevents us recognising anybody from the East Coast. The WAPOL are claiming that they need to have a temporary permit so they know who's travelling in and out for the safety of their officers, which is, it's fair enough. They've agreed to a faster sort of process for club licences for guys competing. It doesn't capture, however, the transient guys, which we were really concerned about, and had a pretty lengthy discussion in the LRC with this. So, a lot of people are more transient now by lifestyle, by choice and by nature. A lot of grey-haired nomads, for example, I use that term loosely because there's also the younger generation, two lots of people that are very transient, travelling around interstate, going from state to state to state. And a lot of these guys are the guys that will travel through into WA, going things like prospecting, seeing the Kimberleys. They want to carry a firearm for protection of crocodiles and things like that, dingoes, while they're prospecting. And
probably not so much now, but in the past, certainly there's been a lot of job opportunities in Western Australia.
Yeah, 100%. No.
Which has meant a lot of people have travelled in and out of the state.
100%, dude. Even now, like we've got obviously I'm in a country area working, so we see a lot of transient teachers coming through on contract. So 6 month and 12 month contract. The teachers and nurses will come across. They want to drag their boyfriends, other halves, or the teachers themselves will shoot. And they want to, they're coming to country areas on the weekends recreationally. They're going out hunting and shooting and doing what we'll do. So there's no real mechanism for that to happen, which is unfortunate. And we're going to keep pushing for that. We want ease of use and no vilification for firearms owners, whether they, if they're coming from South Australia, they shouldn't be vilified coming into WA. Yeah. They should be able to bring their tools of recreation with them or tools of sport. And, if they're law-abiding in South Australia, it's fair to say they're going to be law-abiding in WA.
And there's easy mechanisms to ensure that public safety is still maintained.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I mean, public safety, and this is a phrase that's thrown around a bit ad hoc, I think, honestly. If they're from South Australia, travelling into WA, and they're not doing anything wrong in South Australia because they're a firearms owner, right, it doesn't mean they're going to do stupid things when they're in WA, because they know that all links back and they're going to lose their recreational or occupational.
And I can understand the argument if South Australia wasn't a signatory to the National Firearms Agreement, there might be some argument to say that there's a different standard in South Australia that they don't meet in WA, but there's not.
Very, very similar standards. It's not polar opposites, you're not. Yeah. So, look, this is something that every time and every opportunity we get at WAFTA, we'll always present that argument.
But it's really a legislation issue.
It's more a legislation hookup.
So there needs to be a full change of legislation at a parliamentary level.
Which is part of, winding the clock back, is part of the LRC. So the LRC review was the first time we've looked at the legislation properly since it was enacted in 74.
When was the LRC review?
So the LRC review finished 2 years ago.
Yeah. And you guys are actually invited to it.
Yeah. So part of the LRC, everyone put forward suggestions. It was actually coincidentally the widest parliamentary committee review that had been undertaken, like the most responses. So, like us, sporting group bodies, SSAA, WAPA, WARA, All these groups put in their submissions to how they wanted the Act changed. And, we then got together with Parliament, with the Police Minister's people, Mr. Mazza from Shooters and Fishers represented, and a couple of other interest groups.
Police were there.
Police were there, obviously. They as the administrators, they're going to be there,
Yep.
The administrators and regulators. And we thrashed a few points out. So out of the LRC, I think, and this is why I hate going off the cuff on things certain, but I think there was something like 180-something changes to the Act. Were
a
agreed
number
to
of
by
changes. It doesn't.
Yeah.
We
On the
but
first.
they were in different categories, weren't they? They were stuff
There's
difficult.
this is stuff that was 180 applications went through, or 180 suggestions were made to the way the Act was administered in general. And then with the committee, the first body that we had, we broke it down into a couple of different tranches. So tranche one was going to be the stuff that's pretty easy to get through. It was the stuff that industry, the shooters bodies, and police were all in general agreement with.
Yep.
And it was stuff that was pretty cost effective. So for some of these changes, it costs a lot of money, the administration of anything costs money. So government being very wary about monetary costs. So tranche one was all that. Tranche two is stuff that we're going to come back and fight about over a bit later. It's the stuff that the police weren't really ready to let go, or there was some more background research that had to be done. So tranche two. And tranche three was stuff that was like resource prohibitive in terms of staffing levels, in terms of money attributed to, so there's no money in the state coffers to push through some of these suggestions and ideas. Or it was out of the realms of possibility technology-wise. So some of the things were like, hey, let's get this, that'd be really good. That's fantastic, but the technology is not quite there to link that through just yet.
Okay, that sounds like a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll move on to the next point. So the next one that I've written down here is all the stuff relating to Regulation 26B.
Yeah, so the appearance laws.
Again, so LRC spoke about at the LRC.
Yep.
Or the appearance law side of things.
Yep.
So what's really the issue there? The issue is the regulations themselves prohibit. What do you know the exact wording?
Not on me, no. I'd love to quote it verbatim.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's any firearm that resembles, in the way of look, appearance, or function, a firearm of Category D adapted for military purposes.
Pretty well. Something it's very close to that.
I don't know if it's in that order, but that's the whole gist of.
Look, it is something very close to that. So so Waypolar staunched that until there's an Act change, that is it.
Regulation?
So, the regulation, sorry.
The
until there's a
regulation
regulation change
would be relatively simple, you would have thought.
Well, it's still through Parliament. So you've got to get someone to draft the change. Yeah. You've got to put it to the parliamentary body. There's got to be a bit of a debate about it, and it's got to be voted on.
In the time that we've been discussing this, they've managed to change the categorisation of a lever-action shotgun.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. So, and this is the drama, which I don't know whether we'll touch on it later. We may do, but this was talked about during the LRC. Mm-hmm. During the LRC discussion that we had, it was discussed that this would be a regulation change, no dramas at all, in tranche one. So it's going to get pushed through, no dramas if it gets up. One of the problems that we've had is that the whole LRC process has just stagnated. So Mr. Mazza from Shooters and Fishers Party raised this in questions without notice in Parliament just recently, and I employ shooters, if you're watching this at home, jump onto some of these guys on Facebook or their social media posts.
Who are you talking about?
So
Mazza or?
Mr. Mazza, so Shooters and Fishers Party WA. Give them your support. Guys like the One Nation Party who have asked a lot of questions without notice in Parliament for certain things that are going on.
Is that Stonehouse?
And Mr. Stonehouse, Aaron Stonehouse. He's an independent, liberal Democrat.
Liberal Democrat.
But their social media feeds, you kind of pick up what's going on in the gun world. Mm-hmm. We try and share a bit of it on the WAFTA page. So if you're on the WAFTA page, jump on that and we'll try and shortcut a bit of this sort of stuff for you. But every now and then we do miss it, So asked questions in Parliament, Mr. Mazza did, about the LRC and while it stalled, and got a very vague response from the Minister's office. Pretty well, okay. Yeah, we're looking at it, but nothing's happened in the 2-year cycle. Yeah. So,
but WAFTA's had a big part in this in regards.
Absolutely,
to
yeah. Look, lots of meetings, lots of phone calls, lots of Ks up and down the highway, coming to meetings, presenting evidence, fighting fiercely for shooters' rights on certain issues that are a bit wishy-washy and easy left alone.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the groundwork's all be done. It's really stalled at a parliamentary level.
Correct.
So
correct.
we need to, like you said, Mazza and stuff. But those guys are really on our side anyway.
Look,
but we really need to be getting onto our local members and everything.
yeah,
as well.
yeah. So speak to your local member as well and say,
Is this
hey,
an
look,
upper
this
house
is
issue?
look, lower and upper house. Like I talked to both members of parliament, and as shooters, you know, we're you know, you're well within your rights to contact your local member of parliament. This is why we have this democratic process. Inform them that we're not crazy rednecks, or if you are a crazy redneck, inform them you are, but you're a good guy or girl. So inform them about, you know, your hobby and how much money expenditure, how you pay for all these things, how it gives you good stress relief, all these good things that we all know as a shooting community that we do. Just it really pays to touch base with your local guy or girl and let them know that that's what's going on, you know. Otherwise, they don't know any different, you know. They go to Parliament, they're hearing all the bad stuff, they turn on the TV, they see some whack job having a shooting in the States, and they just go, oh, that must be all shooters.
Yeah.
We're all doing that. So, you know.
Well, not only that, they're going to be getting phone calls and emails and letters from a whole wide range of society on a whole wide range of issues.
Yep.
So why would they tackle your issue unless you've contacted them?
Unless you're talking to them, unless you make a face-to-face meeting, unless you have a handshake and say, g'day, mate, I'm Steelo, I'm your local shooter. We're not bad guys.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So that's all the Reg 26B sort of stuff.
So yeah, tied up in the LRC. Police won't move on it because it's in the LRC. Okay. So until we go forward, we're kind of at a bit of a stalemate.
Okay. Air rifle shrouds. This was an issue a few years ago. The police argued they were silencers, and for a long time then we had to submit pictures of guns and all that sort of stuff, and that sort of all died in the arse now. Nothing's really changed. It's
no, look, yeah, to my knowledge, nothing's changed on that. Most importers will import a firearm without the shroud just to save all embarrassment for everybody. Mm-hmm. And it's not just local police, it's also customs that they're having dramas with. So, look, there's nothing firm on that. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
That's right. Second barrels. So say you've got a rifle or shotgun and you've got a second barrel
or pistol.
Or pistol.
Yeah.
And you've got a second barrel or you want to have a second barrel.
For sure.
So we'll go through it first. Let's pretend we're applying for a license.
Yep.
To apply, if you want the second barrel, what's the issue associated with
So
this?
look, a barrel is a major firearm part under the Act. So any barrel has to be serialised, has to be traced, has to be tracked. Makes sense.
Rifle barrels, non-rifle barrels?
Any barrel.
Any barrel.
And we had a quick discussion prior to the tape being rolled. So a barrel is anything that's been chambered essentially, but at the moment a barrel is a barrel. So this again was talked about in the LRC to try and just bring a little bit of clarity about, more for the industry, more for manufacturers, repairers and dealers, what they can and can't stock, and when is a barrel and when it's not. But basically, if you want another barrel for a gun, it is a major firearm part, and it has to be serialised.
And it has to be listed on
your
license.
has to be listed on your licence. So
because there's obviously up until now, F-class shooters have had several barrels.
Yeah.
308, for example. Because I'll go through a barrel a season.
And this is the problem in the administration of the Act and changing of the guard, so to speak, of the regulator. And WAPOL being the regulator, right? So in the past, over the last 40 years, certain things have been let slide, I suppose, because common sense says that this happens and that's going to happen. Now they're like, no, we need to dot our I's and cross our T's. So they've had the Auditor General, for example, go through them. They're now going through the rest of us. For better or for worse, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So if you do have a second barrel, it needs to be approved and it needs to be registered on your licence. So the way to do that is a second barrel application form. Most gun dealers will have it, firearms dealers will have it available.
Is it on the police website?
I don't think it's on the WAPOL website. The website's changed a few times over the last sort of 6 months. So,
well, I'll make a note to approach licensing about that.
We'll check. I'll check with that and get back to you. But it's a form that's got to be filled out. Mainly, it's got to come from a dealer anyway. There's a serviceability certificate attached to it. It goes off to that, and it's approved.
Okay.
It's no fee. So licensing don't charge you a fee for the second barrel application form. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
And you just fill that in as many times as you want.
So if you've got a barrel now that's not listed on your licence, you would recommend going to a dealership and getting this
go to one of your WAFTA dealers, and they should be able to sort you out.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. So the next one is the cost of firearm licences.
Yeah, astronomical, eh?
We're in Western Australia, though.
Absolutely.
It's all regards to a cost recovery scheme.
Yeah, that's the word on the street. So again, Mr. Mazza from the Shooters and Fishers Party, Shooters, Fishers and Farmers, has brought this up in Parliament many times over. It was discussed in the LRC again as well. with view of bringing in like a pensioner discount. Pretty cool thing, look after our older folk that are out there shooting.
We give them a discount in regards to a whole range of things.
Why wouldn't you do it for licensing?
And we can go into that as a separate issue in regards to the social benefits as well as the health benefits and all that sort of stuff associated.
Absolutely. But look, it was pretty well knocked on the head due to cost recovery methods. And I don't know, like everything, I don't know how long this cost recovery is going to take to recover a cost from something. But that's tied in with government and set by government. So but it's also associated. I mean, if WA is on a cost recovery scheme, do you know if any of the other states are? No.
You don't know, or they're not?
No, I don't. I don't know.
Okay.
B, I don't. Well, it costs money to implement everything. I'd say they're on a cost recovery scheme like everyone, but their fees are much lower.
Yeah. So in order for WA fees to go down, we would have to make it cheaper not cheaper. We would have to make it less costly for police to process a licence.
Or not necessarily. Someone would have to make change in Parliament. So you would have to have a political body say, we want less money, which no political body's ever going to do.
No, but if in WA...
If you could make the system more efficient, then theoretically there should be cost saving, right?
That would reduce the cost, wouldn't it? Because it's cost recovery.
Absolutely. But no government is going to reduce a fee. Same with fuel excise. We've had fuel excise
I can see what you're saying. Even if they became more efficient.
Oh,
even
absolutely.
if they had one person working in there and they just signed off on everything, they'd probably still charge the same.
They definitely would.
Okay, so that's unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
And probably not going to change anytime soon. Something that WAFTA's obviously brought up.
Unless, and again, you talk to your local member of parliament and outline the difference between WA licensing systems and the East Coast. So when it is discussed in parliament, they've got an idea of how much we are getting shafted, absolutely, for similar services or less services in some examples.
Yeah.
But it's a parliamentary change that would require the cost reduction.
Licence application periods. So applying for an original licence, applying for an additional licence. At the moment, it's blown out to 6 to 8 weeks. Well, it's blown right out to 8 weeks. Trent's got an application at the moment. He's up to 8 weeks.
We were just having a discussion earlier off cam. Obviously, I've had some guys that have been waiting 12 weeks or 3 months for an air rifle licence. In addition to an air rifle. So, look, not acceptable. We had a meeting with Waypole last week, last Monday, and brought this up, and we were sort of just making sure there was no technical issues. There was a technical issue with the system December last year, if you remember. Cast your memory back. That was a legitimate system issue. They've said there's no system issues at the moment. There's just been a backlog of HR issues, illness, and people leaving the office, and et cetera, et cetera. They got the message that we weren't very happy about it, as a no shooter out there, to pay what is the most expensive costing in WA, in Australia, for a service, and get the worst timings for it, especially industry.
Well,
like we heard a lot
the turnaround period is a component of the service itself. So if you're not receiving it in a reasonable turnaround period,
absolutely.
and there's no argument that 8 weeks is a reasonable turnaround period, you're receiving a poor level of service.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
At the end of the day, that's what's being supplied.
Yep.
So the WAFTA has been bringing this up as an issue with police.
Yep, correct.
Have they got anything? Did they say that they're going to get on top of it in the next?
Yeah, they've got systems in place to counteract that. They've asked for some more staff, and they should be. Word on the street is that systems should be rolling back to a while ago when we sort of had 2 week turnarounds on an approval.
Okay.
The meetings that I'm talking to, so WAFTA actually meet with industry, with some other key interest groups.
Are you talking about the consultative?
Yeah, consultative group. So we meet with the police and a consultative group every 3 months.
Yep.
On
4
various
times
issues.
a year.
Yeah, 4 times or more. So obviously in the back end we're emailing and phoning and having meetings separate if there's something that comes up. But generally speaking, we're 3 months. 3 monthly we touch base with the police on certain issues.
And so the last one was a couple of weeks ago.
Two
the
weeks
next one
ago.
will be early next year.
Yeah, early next year. Yep.
The next one is freight, which we have to be a little bit careful about. We have spoken about this.
Yeah. So look,
we can't mention any names, but associated to the freight issues themselves.
Yeah. So look, freight is a massive issue across WA. Obviously, we're a very large state. And
what is the issue though? Why is this an issue?
The issue is, cast your memory back about, I don't know, I can't think of the exact date. It was, no, I'm not even going to say a name. So
I would say it was 2 years ago.
No, it was longer than that. I'm talking freight, like the timeline of freight and why it's an issue. So the timeline of freight is that Waypol had a courier roll a truck or crash a truck somewhere in Neekathara. A couple of guns weren't recovered. They looked at their policy, their freight policy, which affects all of us, and they made a few changes in it and interpreted a bit of the act. We obviously don't think they interpreted it for the better. They changed the way that
I
freight...
don't think they interpreted it the way the act was written.
No, 100%, 100%. So that policy change happened. Overnight we lost freight pretty well just about statewide, including one service that we all enjoyed using on a national basis. So it was something that you and I would use to get our product nationally, but we couldn't use that. Dealers have been charged, I must say, as well, for using that freight policy, and there's court cases still running now because of that, which is completely wrong.
And I've spoken about this before on camera. We are one of those people.
So that freight, that they introduced a freight policy. We've had meetings with the police, numerous meetings of trying to simplify the freight policy so it was understandable for transport and it was usable for transport companies. At the moment, the policy sort of sits in a grey area that transport companies themselves, their compliance guys don't want to partake in it because of the risk to their companies, or the perceived risk to their companies, so they are choosing not to. So as today, the 2nd of October. Thanks, mate. The 2nd of 10th. 2nd of October, we've got no freight north of Geraldton pretty well.
Because one of the companies that was delivering...
Yeah, one company that was delivering to north of Geraldton was bought out by a larger company, swallowed up, and that larger company doesn't want the risk associated with moving guns.
Okay, so basically if you are a dealer north of the city, north of Geraldton, you cannot get firearm product.
Making it extremely hard at the moment.
Yeah.
So you've got dealers...
if you are a shooter north of Geraldton who shops at a shop north of Geraldton, you're screwed. You can't get product.
That's right. And there's a whole lot of issues for the Traders Association that we look at here. So you've got a shooter north of Geraldton, and some regional areas, southwest as well, mind you, have the same dramas.
Absolutely. We're still a drop-off point for quite a few other dealers.
Yeah. Like I'm in the city at the moment picking product up because I can't get it freighted to me. So, and I'm only 2.5 hours out of Perth. So look, there's a twofold problem here. So number one, you've got guys now driving from the bush into the city, which is good for you blokes, but probably not securing things as they should on the way home. The damage to reputation of those family-owned businesses, so everything's a family-owned business out there in the real world, in the gun industry anyway. So damage to branding as well. So a lot of these gun shops, old Joe walks in, where's me this? Oh, you blokes are terrible. I'm never shopping here again. I'm telling 5 of my mates. So that's not a direct fault of the shop owner or the manager or whoever's running those shops. That's something that Waypol have created, and transport companies aren't.
Why have they created this though? What was the issue? So their fear, they were risk adverse in themselves.
Look, very risk adverse in terms of transport and security of our product. And look, we know the product that we're shipping and we know what it is, and we were using legitimate transport companies to do it with electronic tracking and all this sort of good stuff that we do on a daily basis. But they've set their policy probably left of centre to the point where there's zero risk to anyone, and it's now counterproductive.
There's zero risk to police.
Well, yeah, zero risk.
You just highlighted a second ago that the risk is now with the end user who's chucking a carton of 7.5s in the tail of the ute and then heading back out.
Or slabs off, so pallets off. So look, it's they've kind of shifted the risk from them with a policy to a policy that's largely ineffective, and seemed to be ineffective over the last 2 years.
Because the goal of it, I assume, would be theft mitigation.
Yeah, for sure.
So, have they provided any numbers prior or since
zero.
to show
that?
No,
zero. Of course there's not. No, of course there's not. It's all anecdotal.
Well,
zero.
because there's a huge cost to industry.
Massive.
This is a question that should be asked, especially from a. I'm not sure, but like from a commerce point of view, like to small businesses. Is there like
gets asked regularly? The problem with our industry, and we've tried to hit up Department of Commerce, for example.
So WAFTA's hit up.
Absolutely, absolutely in the back end, and we've pretty well got nothing from them.
Yeah, okay.
Because we're the gun industry, no one likes us.
Yeah, okay.
It's really bad. You can move methadone fine though, and drugs,
So maybe we should just repacket our bullets in like pill packs.
Absolutely, just ship it along.
Panadeine.
Yeah, just ship it along.
Yeah, okay.
But look, that has been discussed largely, and it's a very look. We've been on this battle for 5 years at least.
Okay.
It's a very hard battle. We've also got our friends at CIFA have been helping us out as well. and hopefully we're going to get some movement on this real soon.
So associated to the freight issue, but it's a separate issue.
Yeah.
Is powder, gunpowder.
Yeah, for sure.
Freight.
Yep.
Do you know what's going on there?
So gunpowder is regulated through mines and energy.
Yes.
And again, then back through transport companies that actually want to run that rule book. Most transport companies go, screw it, I can move 10 tonne of fridges rather than all the rules and regulations that go with shipping powder. So powder's the same issue. And then because it falls under Department of Mines and Energy, there's another gamut of issues that are involved with that.
Okay. Yep.
And the trucking
so
of
again,
east to west
that's
coast.
a freight...
A freight on forwarders versus the policy documents that exist. So freight on forwarders are going, Barley's, I don't want to have a bar to do with it. Other freight on forwarders are going, yeah, we'll move it for this cost, and the cost is absolutely astronomical.
Yeah, it'll
like
probably
out
be
of this
fine
world
for mines and that sort of stuff.
For moving bulk.
DGs
For moving bulk stuff and things like that, or for BHP and Rio that are making billions of dollars a year.
But ammunition is fine.
Different class, different category.
So do we put tins of gunpowder inside 105 shells and ship them as safety cartridges?
Look,
do we get
just change the packaging?
Safety cartridge. You just rip the bullet out.
Well, look, it'd be good to revise the way powder's shipped altogether, and that's something that's got to be taken up with the Department of Mines and Energy. Powder, as you know, doesn't explode by itself; it just burns. No. So the fact
not in the way that the regulation prescribes that it has to be stored.
Correct. So in terms of shipping powder, that'd be a change through either their area, which is probably something that we should definitely be lobbying for. I mean, we've had discussions about it out of session and stuff, but that'd be something that we definitely should be changing in the back end.
Okay, we'll keep moving. Vella and all those issues associated with Vella, which everyone's pretty aware of.
Oh, sorry, can I just touch base on just back on freight, because I just saw something that I was talking about earlier, and we highlighted it, and I did mention it. Look, there is a national carrier that's got a service, and it's been widely promoted as the saving grace of industry. This shipping national body doesn't ship DG, so they won't ship your gun dealer bullets. So again, say for example, Derby might have a service that can get you a firearm, but they can't get you anything else. So no DG, no powder through this service.
So no bullets,
no
primers,
no primers, no nothing. So, but and it has been touted that this is the one saving grace, that they're going to move everything for us, but they're not. It's from nominated dealer to nominated dealer, and it's only within the state of Western Australia. So again, some guys have been asking, can you ship this gun to Brisbane via Carrier X, I'll call it, who's a national carrier? We can't, because it's only within WA at the moment. So that's an issue. Hopefully, maybe one day in the future, this company will roll out a service, but that's, it's taken 2 years to get this service now.
Well, I've gotten an email, and this is probably something we can talk about off camera.
Next one.
Okay, Vella.
Yeah, so
we're talking about Vella in regards to there's separate issues here.
There's a lot of issues around Vella.
Yeah, there's always.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks, giving us a lot of work.
Cheers, mate. The main issue we really want to discuss first is the range itself.
Yeah, cool.
The limitations that police placed on the range.
Yeah, cool. So look, those that don't know, out there in the big world, Shane from Vella Station that does a whole lot of station shooting with 50 cals and everything else. He's a member of WAFTA as well. So we do represent him in various aspects and things that do come up from time to time. And he's got a range of things going through at the moment. He also is the state delegate for long range shooting for SSAA, so really knowledgeable fella. Jump on his Facebook page.
The range there is like a SSAA range.
Yeah, it's a SSAA approved range. So look, Waypole have travelled out there to inspect the range, and it was all approved. Shane wants to push the range out past, and he's on it. For those who don't know, look it up. Carnarvon in WA. If you're listening from outside of WA, Carnarvon, go out of Carnarvon a little bit, and it's all station country, so there's nothing out there. Goats, camels, and a whole lot of nothingness. And he's on, I think it's 750,000 acres of property. So it's a big joint. So he's got it's well out of town, like 80 k's out, I think, off memory, but he's got a 1,000 metre range. Template. It's all templated, no dramas. Shano, he wants to push the range out to 2 k's.
Who templated it?
The original template, or the original approval. So SSAA has approved it, and Waypole have approved the original one for a K.
So
he wants to push his embankment out, so the template stays the same.
Who does template?
SSAA at the moment.
Why?
because they're the controlling body of their range. So they hold the range, they hold the
Why isn't it
insurance.
done by police? I mean, surely if this is a safety thing, it would be covered under the Firearms
Well,
Act.
and
police would do it.
they looked at it. So police oversee the ranges, and this is a whole other avenue of nastiness that's getting delved into at the moment in the back end. That we'll tie up about an hour of film time, so we won't jump into it just yet. But we'll brush over it. We'll brush over it. So WSAA's approved it. Waypol have gone up, inspected it, and said, "Yep, no, you're fine. It's cool." For a K, no dramas. So Shane wants to push the butts out to 2K, so he's got a K and a 2K range for his 50. And for guys that want to shoot out further, because there's a lot of guys and girls that want to, they want to chase that 2K mark. Why not? And we're happy to build them guns and sell them guns.
And the original template was done on a 50 BMG?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So the templating itself doesn't change much. The angles of arc are the same. The fallout distances are the same. For a 2K range is a K range. There's no further danger out further.
No. Just because the butts are 2Ks away doesn't mean that the fallout is only...
Correct.
Because if you fire it at 28 degrees, it's going to miss...
It's going to miss it anyway.
butt.
So it's the same danger template, yeah? You and I understand that. Half the viewers listening and watching, they'll understand that completely. So anyway, Waypol have said, no, we're not going to do it. We're only going to give you a K. Wow. So, because it's Waypol. That's what they're going to do at the moment. And I'm not about to guess what's in the back end of Waypol's head or their reasoning. Other than it was taken to the State Administration.
So no explanation of why it was given.
There wasn't an explanation given. So I wasn't at the State Administration Tribunal, so it went to the State Administration Tribunal for that, which you'd have to jump on a Shane to find the explanation. That then went to appeal. Mm-hmm. And so the State Administration Tribunal loosely found in favour of Vella.
Because it wasn't just the distance, though, was it? There was a whole range of other conditions that they wanted to
There was conditions on licensing, so conditions on that range. So Vella was found in favour of Vella anyway, and found in favour, or not in favour of the police. So with everything in SAT, there's an appeal process that can be applied to. So WA Police applied to appeal that, and that's now in the Supreme Court.
December,
December,
I believe, is... Yeah.
December hearing. So again, if you're out there watching, watch this space for December, and we'll see what happens. There's a whole lot of other things, and because it's in court, I don't want to talk about too much of it in case it upsets or it's an excuse to upset it.
Yeah,
but there are a lot of issues that are surrounding this.
I just
and
don't
it's
know
not just
enough
on the
about
range
it either to make too many discussions now.
Look, there's some pretty tough decisions that are going to get made in Supreme, and it will affect industry. It will affect licence holders.
Because I believe that the appeal is against the SAT's decision that the police can't put conditions that aren't formally in regulation.
Very similar to that.
Something along those lines.
Very similar.
It may not be, it's not it verbatim, but and I'm not 100% sure on it, but it's something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll have to watch the appeal to see what comes out.
Yeah, so the implications, if that's correct, the implications won't just be for...
No, it's not just for Shane. It's for shooters, industry, everybody's going to be affected by it. Okay. So it's going to be a bit of watch this space and see. And like I said, we're not going to comment on it too much because it is in court, but in December, we're either going to be really, really excited or really, really miserable. And it's not just because Santa's coming.
Yeah. So we'll jump on an easy one. Secure storage checks.
Yep.
So at Operation Blue Sun a year ago.
Yeah.
When that finished up.
So there's been a bit of a rollout of a few things, and a lot of shooters are writing in and talking and phoning, and no doubt you would field all these shops calls in the shop same as. So we had Operation Blue Sun, which was a statewide initiative on cabinet checks, targeting probably key 12 points of risk to public that was done up. And look, it was actually a really good operation, and the intel that went behind it was...
we were given heads up on it.
Yeah, and we got a heads up on it very late, but we did get a heads up on it. And the thought process behind it was sound for once, I must say. And hats off where credit where credit's due. I think, and then in the back end, what we had is a heap of people have been checked around the state. Good things and bad things have happened out of it, but. In the back end then, just recently we had another operation, and I'm going to say it around the wrong way, but Althena Alpha?
No, perfect. Yeah,
hey, so Althena Alpha was then launched nationally, which is a direct copy of Blue Sun. So unfortunately, or not unfortunately, the way that the world happens, the police go and have their little forums, and I think Waypol obviously said what a good thing Blue Sun was. All the other states have copied it and said, right, we're going to launch nationally. Operation Alpha Athena, and you're going to do it.
Athena Alpha, but yeah.
Yeah, Athena Alpha. And unfortunately, Waypol's swept up in it, and it's really hard on a national forum to say we're going to be the only jurisdiction that's not going to comply with it. The problem is that part of that process, it probably wasn't launched as well as Blue Sun, so industry didn't get advised of it at all. It was also launched in their, I think SSAA leaked it, but it was also launched in their Police News magazine, their internal magazine, that this is happening, and had a few little derogatory hits at firearms owners, which is probably below the belt and not needed. But the rollout of it wasn't so good. It ended up being that if you had been Blue Sun, you could contact them, provide dates of your Blue Sun audit, and you wouldn't be.
So they were contacting people who had already been checked at Blue Sun.
Yeah, they were sending letters out actually to say that you're now subject to Althena, even though that you'd been Blue Sun like.
So didn't they have a database of people who'd been checked in Blue Sun?
Well,
they just avoided those people.
You'd think these databases and all this sort of stuff would work well, but it doesn't. So yeah, this is another one of those system errors.
So if you do get contacted about Athena Alpha, the safe check thing, if you've already been checked under Blue Sun, make sure you let the police know. Because then they'll move on and check someone who hasn't been.
Yeah, they may do, or they may not. They might
just cross it off.
Yeah, they might cross it off, or they might come and see you again. And if they do, look, by all accounts, be courteous, be kind. The guys that are coming doing the checks aren't the guys that are making the rules at the end of the day. They're just the
They've
poor.
Just got a box to tick.
They're just the poor guys going around. And look, take the time to introduce them to shooting. Tell them that you're a good guy. Don't give them any stereotypical shit that they're going to hate or they're going to hate you on. Take the time to be kind and courteous, and then because these guys are going to be the rule makers in the future, which is something I think we lose sight of. Yeah. The guys that are coming checking your house now, if they go, look, I went to see Zaine and he was an absolute knob. I hate all shooters because they're all knobs. They're going to be the guys in 20 years' time. They're going to make it hard for us.
Yeah.
If they come to your house
but of course, don't give it up all your and I want to say rights, but we don't have rights. But don't give up all your. If it's not any convenient time, if you're not going to be at home, if you're at work or something like that, you can request for a booking at a different time. Or something.
By all accounts, address everything you want to do, play your own game, but by the same token, these guys are going to be the rule makers in the near future.
Be nice about it. You don't have to be an arsehole.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so that was an easy one. Dual calibers, another easy one. Like say 38 357s and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Used to be able to be listed on your license like that. They won't do it like that anymore.
Well, it's funny though because I still get, and so do you. You still get calibers come back 38 357. So
no, I don't get them anymore.
No, really?
No, I haven't had one for a while. So I'll have people licensed at a 357, and then they'll have a condition placed underneath, which is can purchase 38 special.
Correct.
But they'll only do it for pistols. They won't do it for rifles. Rifles are in the same boat.
Cool. So look, the inside story, and we've chased this up a couple of times with licensing, is if you've got a 38 and you want both, or you've got a 357 and you want both, write them a letter. They'll add it to a condition on your license. Apparently, it won't cost you anything. You just need to say why you want to run both ammo. I shoot at a pistol club. I have both lots of brass in my come up with a reason.
The gun's in 357, but I want to shoot 38s because I want to load back and all that sort of stuff. So that's a nice easy one. Rec hunting, this probably isn't an easy one. This is an issue that came up a few years ago when we were talking about hunting on public lands.
This is an ongoing issue.
Killed at the last minute by Colin Barnett.
Well, I don't think it was just Colin Barnett. In fairness to Mr. Barnett, and you were there as well. I think Dad was definitely there. Bill was there. So look, we were at the parliamentary debate, and it was the worst debate I've ever seen in Parliament. Just absolute ludicrous statements being thrown out. But anyway, so look, we fast forward the clock. I think, Jesus, that was nearly 3 years ago now. 4 years ago, probably. We fast forward the clock now. Again, Mr. Mazza from the Shooters and Fishers and Farmers Party is putting together another motion to go through Parliament. We obviously know the wider economic benefits of rec hunting, the wider social benefits of rec hunting, and the good to self benefits that you've got of going back into nature with your wife and kids and or mates and having having a shoot of some vermin in the bush. Really good thing.
Well, there's definitely social and environmental benefits to that as well. Because obviously it's only going to be feral animals. They're not going to be allowing people to go into public lands to shoot native animals.
No. Look, exactly right. And I don't think everyone wants to skirt around the economic benefit. I think the economic benefit being from someone in the bush is absolutely paramount.
And certainly from a WAFTA point of view, that would be like a primary focus for WAFTA. Not just for traders, not just for
WAFTA members, but I'm talking economic benefit of fuel, food, vehicle repairs. Getting people out into these areas that they don't normally go, and this is probably one of the problems in the debate. That they were all like, "Oh, shooters are going to shoot at people on Bibbulmun Track." Like it's got nothing to do with Bibbulmun Track. There's a whole vast state out there that we want to have access to. So, It's run in other states very successfully and brings a lot of economic benefit via recreational shooting to those areas. And I think it's a good thing. It can only have positives. There are ways that you can do it in here. So I think the WA ADA, so the WA Deer Association, and WSAA both got little programs running that you can, they're pilot sort of programs, but you can get onto that and shoot on like, I'm going to say this name wrong. It's the old DPAW.
Yeah,
Department of Biodiversity and Attractions and
stuff.
whatever they are.
So, but that'll be like a contracted thing.
Yeah, correct. It's like a regulated thing to try and see how it's going to go before it's thrown out to wider areas.
I think
it's controlled.
I think it's relatively unnecessary because it's already been done in other states.
Oh, 100%.
We know the benefits. So
100%.
A wider formal program would be in everyone's benefit.
Absolutely. Let's get it on. That's what I say.
So right now, the issue is still ongoing.
Absolutely.
WAFTA is still...
Look, we're at the forefront.
Yeah, we're
absolutely. We're at the forefront. Every time it gets mentioned, we'll throw our support behind Mr. Mazza, or any parliamentary a parliamentary member that wants to throw it up. It's got to be an act of parliament that gets it in, guys. That's the trick.
Yeah, absolutely. So same calibre licences. So say you want to license a second 22 long rifle.
Yeah. So look, this is there is a bit of an issue with this across the board, and licensing are cracking the whip a lot on everything. Yeah.
So just a bit of a rundown of what the actual legislation is that prevents people from getting 22 long rifles on their licence.
Oh, I wish I had the act in front of me. Look, so I don't have the act in front of me, but basically it's got to be a firearm's got to have different characteristics to another.
Yeah.
And again, I've got the act somewhere, but so licensing are cracking down on that, saying, look, it's got to have different characteristics. So I suppose the key to anything to do with guns at the moment is if you go to your WAFTA guys are going to be a bit more clued up about wording applications a bit better to make sure that the characteristics are different from gun to gun to gun. The problem you've got is in this, and we do bring this up, is if you've got two young boys, you want them both to shoot with you at a club or open license. You're going to have two of the same guns. It makes it a bit harder in the back end to try and see reason or get these guys to see reason as to why we want two 22s the same. You want one and the wife wants one. You want them the same gun so that it's the same everything.
The issue
it's problematic.
The issue I see, and so this is me talking now as a shop owner rather, is that the Act, and everyone's heard of the terms genuine reason, genuine need, and genuine reason says you must have the firearm must be used for hunting or some other recreational purpose or in a club, and that particular firearm must be justified. And then you've got genuine need, which is basically to say that you need this gun because you can't use the guns that are on your licence now, or you need this category of gun because you can't use a lower category. So you have to use a category B because they're at long range, for example, and you can't use category A because it's not going to achieve that. The issue I've got is that if you're applying for a 223 and you've already got a 223, then genuine need applies that you must, why can't you use the guns that are on your licence now? And I think that's incorrectly being used to restrict the licences of Category A firearms, which don't have to meet the genuine need test.
Correct.
Police are applying a genuine need test or Category A firearm saying you can use the guns on your licence now. And I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, except for in the Act there's somewhere it's pretty well Commissioner's discretion says whatever, which I think they're taking the Commissioner's discretion a little bit left.
But that's a catch-all that you could use to knock back any licence.
And that's what I'm saying.
I don't think that's the reason. That
no, absolutely. No, look, 100%. But that's their fallback. Our Commissioner's discretion says, well, I'm pretty sure that wasn't in there for him to knock back 222s. And I don't know about your experience, but my experience has been that it's very hit and miss. Yeah.
So
and
you get a few come through. So it's at the whim of the person processing the application. And that's this central licensing that was supposed to negate that whole side of it.
And this is largely like a lot of the issues that we have in licensing in general are inconsistencies. Like, if you've got a rule book, let's run the rule book so everyone knows. But the problem is, like, as you know, one day you'll do one thing and it's fine, the next day it's not, the next day it is, the next day it's not, so no one knows where we're at. We're in this wishy-washy world of just walking around in circles. And waste a lot of resources, a lot of time from everyone.
Waste our resources, waste the shooter's resource.
Absolutely.
Because if they knew from the word go that they weren't going to get a licence, well then they wouldn't have applied, well not necessarily for a non-licence, but they would have applied for something else.
Yeah, for sure.
Waste their time and money, waste our time and money, waste police time and money.
Absolutely.
So it's a pointless exercise if the goalpost was set. It was
makes life a lot easier.
Okay. But that's still an ongoing issue.
Correct.
WAFTA are still talking to police about this issue. Do you see any sort of plan to get that resolved, or in the short term?
No, look, I mean, obviously, like a lot of this sort of stuff, we obviously hound and badger WAFTA, Waypole, as much as we can. Is it going to get resolved? That's entirely up to them.
Okay.
You know, and we as mighty as I think we are, we'll never be able to influence them totally, which is why, you know, talk to your local member of parliament so they know what's going on.
Well, that's what the whole process is.
Absolutely.
For. Unserviceable exchanges. So say you're a farmer and you come into the city, or you're a farmer out in Narrogin and you come into Steelo and I've got a gun and it's knackered.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you fix this for me? It's going to cost me $500 to get it fixed. I'll just buy a brand new one.
Yep.
We've spoken about this in the past. So I brought this up at a West Australian WAF, West Australian Farmers Federation meeting. An election 10 years ago. I brought it up then about unserviceable exchanges for farmers. And
well, anyone really, like anyone, like if you're, even if you're a rec shooter, you know, if you're recreational shooting, there's a lot of rec shooters that actually shoot more vermin than a lot of farmers.
Well, and they shoot them with unserviceable guns.
That's right. So, you know, you go and do a run, you know, you have an incident, a firearm falls off a ute, for example, snaps in half, bends a barrel, whatever. At the moment, the process is, for those that aren't in WA, the process is you've got to apply for another firearm completely and wait 3 months.
So you're not going to have a firearm for 3 months?
Yeah, so no gun for 3 months.
Or you're going to risk using an unserviceable firearm.
Correct. So a lot of guys, as you know, they'll come in with a clapped out old Lithgow, for example, you know, old single shot for those that are over the age of 40 that still remember what they look like.
Or an old Savage or
whatever. You look, this is my sheep shooter, or I use it to shoot swallows, whatever. I'll need a new one because the bolt's not right, you know. They're cost prohibitive to fix and repair, or the parts aren't available because, you know, again, contrary to popular belief, lots of parts for guns aren't available. So at the moment, you could give him a brand new 22 for under $500. There you go, mate. Off you go, and he trundles on home. Obviously, there's got to be a process so we can track that firearm onto that person. You know, no one's saying.
I mean, we do all those paperwork.
100%. It's all done now. However, it's the time delay. So what happens is when you tell someone that he's got to have to put an application in, and he could wait for 3 months for it to come back, they walk out the shop and you never see him again. So they're using that unsafe firearm, or one that's going to discharge around every now and then, or one with a barrel bulge. And the culpability then, I don't know, the Waypole seem very risk averse to a lot of things. I think this is something that they're not seeing the risk averse nature to properly. Should that gun blow up then because that person's decided through their process that they haven't got it? I don't know. You could read into it. But look, this is something that we're going to constantly pursue. We have brought it up in several formats. We brought it up in the LRC. There was a mechanism, I think, attributed to be able to do it. Out of the LRC,
I know has brought it up at several consulting meetings.
It's something that I think is a benefit of shooters in general and public safety. So
Absolutely.
I can't see why it can't go through.
I think everyone kicks a goal, and I don't see why it hasn't been introduced already.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the person's already been certified to be. Whereas we're talking a 1-for-1, like we're talking a same.
Yeah, it's a 22 bolt gun for a 22 bolt gun. It's not like a 22 for a 22 Magnum.
Yeah,
it's got to be same.
22 Magnum for a 308.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be like same numbers. All you're doing is in the
so
the
that
back
person's
end
already been certified fit and proper.
100%.
They've got the property or the club letter or whatever it may be.
Got the ammunition. Everything's there. Got the storage. Everything's fine. All you're doing is changing a serial number from one gun to the next. Because again, in WA, we can't license someone else's. We can't use someone else's gun.
Okay, so that's still ongoing. Unserviceable exchanges. So the Animal Welfare Act and the RSPCA. So that's come up as a bit of a catchphrase from police over the last, I want to say, several months. Longer.
Probably 12. Raises his hair every now and then.
Why has it all of a sudden become an issue for licensing?
Who knows? That's going to be a question for licensing, and it's a question I haven't been able to answer just yet.
Okay. So there are some issues that are going on at the moment in the SAT, which we can't talk about until the information relating to that becomes public. And we can talk about this more at a later date. But in the short term, the police are using the Animal Welfare Act as a defence for some people applying for certain calibre firearms.
And I suppose, look, for them, they're going to draw every resource they can to justify their position, which is, just the same as we do on our side of the fence, I suppose.
But shouldn't they be drawing the resources, using the resources to come to a decision, not coming to a decision and then backing it up with the resources?
Look,
it's the wrong way around.
Agreed. And it does seem very convoluted. But
it's certainly not something that they've ever had an issue with before, because it's not as if they've ever had an issue with licensing someone to a 22 Magnum to shoot pigs.
No, correct.
Or something like that. When it's risk adverse for them.
And this is
they're
going
happy
back
to
to
do it.
that. Yeah, this is going back to that their inconsistencies and thought processes, I suppose. Like it just seems to be very ad hoc from time to time.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, they'll search for certain things to justify the ad hocness.
Yeah.
And even if it's completely left of centre.
Because
Completely left of centre.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no mention of the Animal Welfare Act in the licensing process.
No. It's a regulation. It's a tracking.
It's a complete separate
100%
piece of legislation.
Yeah,
that's not referenced to.
No, that's right.
Okay. So that's still an ongoing issue, and that's probably going to arise more in the near future. But right
Or
now,
may not, depending.
Well, that's right.
Who
Might
knows?
disappear.
Yeah.
Civil matters, wills, deceased estates, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, cool.
So what's the major issue with
So
that?
look, deceased estate. So very touchy subject, and we're all going to die one day. So make a list and tell people where you want your stuff to go to.
Some of us sooner than others.
Yeah, probably. The way I'm drinking iced coffee at the moment. Although you're not far behind me. So look, So the way that it's always happened is deceased estates has always been a bit of a grey area, and it's allowed people to do certain things. There was a new licensing system introduced a little while ago, and it stopped dealers, I suppose, from taking deceased estates and entering on the system and tracking them. There's also been a Auditor General's review done on police licensing recently, and part of that was they were pretty damning about the WAPOL's ability to go and collect deceased licences, firearms.
Well, their time frames associated with
Correct.
it.
Sorry, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So from the time the person dies to the time those firearms are safely taken into police custody, because in WA again, when you die, the licence dies with you. So there's deeming the firearms to be unsafe at the deceased location, which is not true. Often. More often than not, they're still locked in the bloody cabinet, so they're not going anywhere, they're locked in there.
They were no unsafe than they were before the person
Correct. So, look, the police have put in a few practices. At this meeting just recently, we brought this up and introduced a way that WAFTA members can help with this process and shorten the span that these firearms are out of circulation.
We put a prospective idea forward.
Which we've done several times over.
Yep.
So, look, one of the sticking points at the moment with licensing is that these firearms, when they're deceased, is the ownership. So, who they're attributed to, which is their real sticky point. We have an alternate argument to that, obviously.
How do you mean? As in the next of kin, like the next
Yeah.
person?
So, for example, you die tomorrow, and I hope it doesn't happen tomorrow. But one of your guns is my gun, for example.
Yeah.
The police have got no way of knowing unless there's a will. So they're more worried about the ownership of the firearms and making sure that they go to the right place. Look, 100%. That's our argument. Is that the ownership of any property is a civil matter, and that's not from police. The police should be deciding how to secure those firearms, so how to take them out of that one location and get them back into the system as quick as possible. After that, ownership and who owns the guns rightfully and where the estate's split up that can take 20 years.
Issue.
20 years of lawyers deciding that sort of stuff. So,
because my missus might say, well, no, I don't want Steelo to have it. Correct. I want it sold, and I want half the money.
Correct.
Steelo can have the other half, type thing.
Correct, 100%.
So it's a lot more. It's more complex than. So it wasn't really a major issue before. It was made a major issue by the Auditor General report. Look, critical of police.
100%. Look, so there's two things that have happened. Obviously, in the background, there's been an incident happen, which is, I'd say the police have got a rocket, and again, I'm not a copper, so I don't pretend to know what's happened, but I'd say they've got a rocket over a deceased estate and firearms going to someone that they shouldn't have gone to, probably. That's then got them to have a look at their policy. Auditor General's gone through and said, right, this needs to happen a bit faster because you blokes are taking your time.
Because it seems like then that they've thrown the baby out with the bathwater.
Oh, 100%.
Said, well, if we're getting a rocket for this, so we're just going to seize any gun as when the person dies.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is, and this is affecting co-licenses. So again, in WA,
co-licenses will just cease to exist.
That's correct. Yeah. So
which surely defeats the purpose in a lot of instances.
It does.
Of people having a co-license.
It does. Exactly right. So in the past, and again, if you're not from WA, I apologise, but in WA, like Zaine and I can share a gun, but it's got to be licensed to both of us. So a co-license. In the past, if Zaine died, I'd just get his guns automatically.
Yeah. Well, you were still licensed for him.
Score. I'm still licensed for him.
Well, you could be going into the possession, but again, the civil matter would be, well, are they actually belong to my wife?
Correct. So the civil lawyers come in and they chase you down for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
But the guns are still secured. They're secured with me, so no issue. That's what we believe, WAFTA. The problem is now that the police are saying, righto, if Zaine dies, if the guns are co-licensed to me, they'll go to me, or they'll get seized from me until the police get a letter from the executor of your estate, providing that the guns are mentioned in there, or they're the executor that control your estate. So, and then we have the next problem now, which has raised its head, is a lot of people don't have wills. So, you know, I want to hear from the executive of the estate on where my, you know, where your magic collection of guns are going to. Fuck, there's no will. So, you know, if you're in the gun world, get a will. Make life easy at the moment. Yeah. If not, cross your fingers and hope we can sort this mess out. Well, look, we mentioned this again at the meeting last Monday or 2 Mondays ago. This is an issue that we're constantly going to drive because you know, WAFTA and myself obviously personally don't think it's right. We think they've got the wrong end of the stick on this WAPOL, and we're going to, you know, we're going to try and bring them to task on it as much as we can. And again, get the deceased estate people dealing with people they're comfortable with dealing with. Yep. You know, the last thing they want to do is roll into a police station where they're not used to dealing with those guys. A lot of gun owners are typically not branded, but they, you know, the guys that deal with you have dealt with you forever. Mm. So, you know, the family are familiar with you, they know how you operate. Let's go and see Zaine and we'll give you all the guns and you can record them like you do in other states. Yeah. And it's a very fast process then, you know, rather than having to deal with the police.
It could be a lot more streamlined than what it is now.
Absolutely.
So I'll just skip forward one. Handgun storage.
Yeah.
So what's the deal now?
Isn't that a dilly of a pickle?
So it's just for dealers.
Yep.
So it says that if you've got a single handgun on your dealer's license, you have to have a Category 5 safe, which is a big...
So to hold, so to hold overnight, you guys have done it. We've done it at a cost of thousands and thousands,
tens of thousands.
And I don't think the shooting public out there really appreciate what industry's done to keep this sort of stuff going, because it was a massive expense. Look, this is something that WAFTA obviously fought tooth and nail with a series of very, very, very heated discussions.
This came out of the result of the first break-in at Barry's.
Yeah,
I'll let you know, because a lot of handguns were stolen there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this was still while Carlo Callaghan was the Commissioner of Police, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was.
I know it was, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yep. So this is the good thing when you're doing the interview. You do the study and I just get to sit in the hot seat.
Because I was quite critical of him at the time.
Yeah.
Because he was sort of on his way out, and he was last hurrah type thing. I saw it as his sort of, 100%. This is my last claim to fame.
Yeah. Look, I don't think, in fairness, I don't think it's all aimed at him, although he did sign the final document.
The buck stops with him. Because at the end of the day, the inspector at the time was Migro.
Yeah. Look,
and Migro actually said that nothing's going to change. At a consulting meeting, he said nothing's going to change as a result of this because we realise it's not the dealer's fault.
Yeah.
And then they turned around and introduced this policy,
which is all driven from an area as well within. But look, so that's something that we fought tooth and nail. There were security upgrades that we agreed with in principle, but not to the extent that it's gone. And it's actually forced some people out of business, which is very sad. And it's put a lot of us, back a good couple of years because, no business has got a random 30 or 40 grand sitting in the back pocket to go and do some upgrades like that.
But certainly the WAFTA had it really wheeled back from the original specifications.
Look, the original specifications was like none of us. Yeah, none of us would have a handgun at all, ever.
It's sort of, if you've seen Ocean's 11, you'll sort of get the idea of the original specifications.
Yeah, it was a mix between Ocean's 11 and the Fast and the Furious. That sort of security parameters. But look, anyway, so that's in play now. So some of the dealers we have gone hard. Some of us have involved remortgaging houses and all that sort of good stuff to get up to spec. But basically, grade 5 safe, monitored
and people
security
think Steelo's taking the piss when he says that, but he's not.
No, that's right. No, it's legitimately people have remortgaged homes.
When you're in business, you start to appreciate what sort of investments things.
So we have remortgaged homes to try and get this facility back up and running. So monitored alarms, monitored CCTV throughout, panic buttons, and a raft of other things that I'm not going to go into because then it obviously puts us in the bad side because people can pick our security apart. But look, there's been a very, very considerable investment if you're holding firearms overnight, and that's for handguns, dealers, repairers, and manufacturers. So the three categories.
And how's that proven effective?
Well, you know what? It's proven vastly effective until just the other day when again poor old Mr. Barry Lathwell got mugged.
And he was obviously targeted
by some good criminals. Yeah, look, and again,
I don't think it's coincidence that he's had, within a couple of years, he's been targeted.
Well, look, and nothing. Look, it's nothing that I don't think he's done deliberately. Between me, you, and the largest gatepost I can find, it's just he's a target because he is the largest handgun dealer in WA.
I think that you.
So you know, if you want to hit somebody, let's hit Barry because and this is the problem in retail. We're constantly showing what we're doing because that's how we sell stuff. We can't sell stuff if we're not telling you that I'm the biggest and I'm the best. You know, it's just that's just the law of nature. So look, unfortunately for Barry, again, some good crooks had a crack at him. They took him out at knife point, rushed him out of his car after a crash. Poor old Barry thought he was doing the right thing and pulled up to exchange insurance details and see what had happened. And because he's a good bloke, checked to make sure that they were all right and all that sort of good stuff. They pulled a knife on him, threatened to kill him, and bound and gagged him and kicked the crap out of him and threw him in the back of the car. And forcibly made him unlock his shop, which is a nasty thing to have happen, obviously. So look, with all these security upgrades, obviously, you know, still got rolled again the same shop. So it's not even. So you know, we've all put in thousands and thousands of dollars. Look, I think industry, we did need to do something, honestly, and we're all in agreement. We needed to lift our level a little bit and have a little bit of increased security. Not to the level that WAPOL have demanded.
And I think the way that police licensing relayed the information and the whole process in having to upgrade our storage was really poorly done.
Yeah, look, it was a very bad delivery, probably a very B grade delivery in the message, and could have definitely been done a lot better. Even to the point of, you know, there's certain aspects of the process that that didn't need to be, and there was no research or background into it other than Class 5's got to be good.
Yeah.
You know, like, why not that? But I think it was Schedule 8 or something they wanted originally.
Originally, yeah.
Oh,
and then it was something that didn't exist.
It was so far left of centre.
And then it was Class 5.
Yeah. But look, you know, again, industry, we understand what we're doing and we understand the product that we're having, and it was probably time for a little bit of a move in a direction, and we're all for a move in the direction. And we're still fighting for some of those things to be taken out of that policy. It is policy after all, not legislation. And to be removed to make it more practical for handgun dealers.
Certainly it hasn't proven
No, it hasn't proven.
safer.
No, it hasn't proven anything.
The police will claim that because the guns were recovered that it's better off, but that wasn't as a product of police licensing.
No, that was a product of police resourcing and
different departments.
Again, credit's due. They stood up and took charge and put some resources. Again, everything's resource based, so they put an astronomical amount of resources into recovering those firearms, which was, again, hats off to them. But like you said, us as industry across the board has spent tens of thousands of dollars and some upwards into. I know Barry, he has put an astronomical amount of money into the security of his shop, only to find that it hasn't really worked.
No.
So.
And do you think it's really, enough of the onus has been placed on dealers? Do you think that more onus should be placed on dealers in regards to ensuring that break-ins don't occur?
Look, I think...
And that's a loaded question. I know the answer.
Look, it is, yeah, obviously, and we're going to have a loaded question sort of day. But, look, the onus is on dealers to have their stuff secured. I think some dealers take their onus more seriously than others. I know dealers that in the past that have been rolled and their security is very, very poor. Mm-hmm. And when we're talking dealers, there's obviously two tiers of dealers. There's the guys that are shopfront dealers that are dealing on a daily basis, and there's guys that are, dealing out of home and doing stuff on a more of a low-key sort of...
Well, outside handguns, what are the requirements for dealers as far as storage? Is there regulation?
No, it's Schedule 4, just like everyone else.
So there's no actual... So there's no regulations for dealer storage?
No.
Other than the policy, which is specifically for handgun storage, which is well over the top.
Yep.
So shouldn't there be something in between?
Well, look, you'd think so.
And I'm not saying that the police should start just chucking policy and regulation everywhere.
Yeah, you'd think so.
But maybe we should be sitting down with...
look, you'd think that...
Because most of the dealers will comply anyway.
Correct. But you think that they're the regulator, right? Yeah. So they approve every new dealership that comes across every new dealer application. So you think that they would have something in place for a new dealer application to say, right, you must meet a minimum of this spec. And depending on what they write into that, that's the problem. That's the issue. But no, there's nothing in legislation per se.
Yeah.
Which is the issue we all have, is that it's all, wishy-washy.
Okay.
And without putting words into their mouth, watch this space because I bet that's coming.
Yeah, it's...
If they're not already looking at it, I would just about guarantee they are.
Yeah. Anyway, WAFTA's been fighting pretty hard on that front, and
we will continue to fight on that front. Yeah, anything that comes up with it, providing it's not so left of centre. Again, we work with the regulator quite a lot. Some of the stuff, because again, it's not 1974. We're in 2019. We understand the product we do. We understand the service that we deliver. We want to make sure that what we're doing is secure and safe, so we've got a future in it, without being polar opposites. And it doesn't mean that we don't agree with them all the time, because there's quite often that we do have very heated discussions, and we don't agree on a lot of things. But quite often, some of the stuff, we do move in the same sort of area.
Cool. And so then the last one, which I'm coming back to, and which you touched on a second ago, which is a dealer handbook. So wouldn't it be, and we've been dealing with this for about, 5 years now? So
for a long time.
Yeah. So a dealer handbook would be, you get your dealer's license.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's the policy documents, if you like, and the guidelines.
Yeah.
Here's what there's no regulation on security, but in the dealer handbook, we recommend
here's a guide.
Have some IR cameras, window smash detectors.
Here's a guide.
Yeah.
Yep, here's a guide. Look, that is something.
That
That's something that's been coming and been happening for a good couple of years. It's been spoken about. Other states, coincidentally, do have dealer handbooks, trade handbooks.
Is it something that WAFTA's been quite on the forefront for quite some time?
We've been asking for it, for sure. On
behalf of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been asking for it for some time, and I'm sure this is with the point where people will go, well, why don't you just do one yourself? From WAFTA. We're not the regulator.
No.
And it's not our job. It's not our job to do a handbook that's from the regulator's behalf. So we are very much in favour of a handbook going. We're happy to work with police on a handbook. When they deliver us a handbook, we'll go through it and make sure and highlight a few extra issues. But the regulator is apparently collating information at the moment, and we'll put it into something in the future.
I mean, the problem I see is that the industry wants something definitive, and the police want something that's fluid. Yeah. And meeting in the middle is not always.
That's why we get to have all these trips to Perth. And
well, there needs to be some sort of some hard and fast rules, regulations, do's and don'ts.
Yeah, for sure.
Because otherwise, if you move the goalposts around, no one's going to know.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
And that's not in the interest of public safety either.
No. Look, I mean, it is. It's in the interest of public safety. It's in the interest of everybody. Everybody that's in the industry. If we all know what song sheet we're playing on, and same with Waypole, some of the inconsistencies that they do, granted, is because of changing of the guard, right?
Yes.
So they'll stuff transfer in, transfer out. Yourself as a business employee, how long it takes to upskill your people to a level that is your business level. So the police have the same thing. So a handbook on their behalf would be also awesome. Because
it would prevent a lot of the questions.
Well, when you're rocking at day one in licensing, g'day, I'm Zaine Beaton, I'm here to do licensing. There you go, mate. There's your handbook. So when you're answering the questions, at least you're getting a consistent answer. So look, we've been told there's been steps in the background to get this through. And there's
Does it look like it's something that's going to happen in the near future, or?
Oh, look, you know what? Who knows? Who knows? It'd be good if they just approved a few more licences, get that backlog out. They'd have a bit more time.
They have no date or anything set?
No, there's no date. No, there's no date. Like nothing by 2020. And this has been an ongoing thing for at least the last sort of 2 or 3 years that I can think of.
I think it's been longer. I'm not.
Yeah. Look, I could definitely hand on heart say it's been 2 to 3 years, but obviously probably longer. And other successive WAFTA guys have been stabbing at it as well, saying, "Hey, let's go."
Okay.
Yep.
No worries. Well, I really appreciate it, Steelo. So. West Australian Firearms Traders Association, if you're a firearm dealer, repairer or manufacturer in WA, you need to be a member of, well, you don't need to be, you should be a member of the West Australian Firearms Traders Association. It's quite easy, membership's not very expensive. You'll be kept up to date on all the issues like we just outlined.
It's less than a coffee a week, I think.
Absolutely.
It's nothing money. Look,
what about social membership as well?
Yeah, look,
if you're not a firearms trader, in WA, you can't be a member of the West Australian Firearms Traders Association.
Yeah,
necessarily, but you can be a social member.
An associate member. We've just got to cover this off in the AGM, which is coming up soon. By the way,
so we don't want to speak out of school here too much, but
no. Well, I'm pretty sure it's in the Constitution. So look, it's something that we are investigating. It's something that we will encourage in the near future to be in play for those that want help contribute or come up to date with the information quicker or get the full background information of what's going on, then that's good. Obviously, all of the stuff in WAFTA, for those that are watching, this is it's not a paid gig, so this is all volunteer based. So everything that's done is on a shoestring budget, and it's all our own time, our own effort, our own energy. It's our own fuel money. It's not propped up. So membership is going to fund things like external consultants when we need those, internal or external reports when that's done. If we have to buy expert witnesses to come across for court cases, it's all for that sort of stuff.
It all gets reinvested back into the sport.
Yeah,
itself.
It's completely. It doesn't buy my Ferrari, unfortunately.
No, it doesn't.
It's not funding.
It
doesn't. It doesn't fund Zaine's holiday house in the Bahamas. No. It's completely. It's all transparent. It's all there, and it's all invested back if it is. I mean, we're not even claiming parking tickets at the moment.
No, it's a non-for-profit organisation that if you really want to get involved certainly at a not necessarily a political level, but if you want to invest something into the sport itself and get a return on that, because of course, if you're a social member, you're going to get the benefits of being kept up to date with all the latest issues and that sort of stuff. Obviously not going to get all the information that you would if you get a full membership, because we can't talk about some things, as you would have seen on the page itself, but you will get a return for that investment. And
a warm fuzzy feeling.
Absolutely.
You can't put a price on that.
No, that's right. So definitely think about that. Thanks very much, Steelo.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll talk again soon.